sit in terrible chairs. So,
yeah.
All right, let's go to get rolling here. I don't want to take too much because, again, I get talking, you get talking, and this will keep going. This will be a 4-hour episode.
Hey, if it's needed.
I do not want to compete with Dr. Leighton Flowers on long podcasts.
So, okay.
What I would like you to do, though, is why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, where your background, where you're from, and all that good stuff, and we'll kind of jump into some of the other things.
One thing before we get started, Patreons, I see you, and I thank you, and also the church split, for taking I and Julius under you guys' wing. They need a round of applause. So, Brian, do some cool edits right here, man. I'll just get right into it. I was born in the IB. 21, I was shouting, screaming, kicking in my mama's belly. Man, I was born in it for my whole...
I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep a straight face, but it's going to be really hard to. You're so extra, but keep going.
But anyway, no, so I was born in the IFB my whole entire life. I called the realm that I grew up the green side of fundamentalism because every single preacher that we heard was mostly, they had the last name Green. But...
I want to keep that closer to you.
Okay.
These are directional mics. They're very picky.
I keep on fidgeting.
Yeah, you fidget and you move and you're swinging, and it's going to be hard for the audience to hear you. So back to the green side.
Yeah, green side of fundamentalism. It was very interesting because like some things were preached on that made absolutely no sense. Like logical no sense. Like for example, like individual soul liberty was like constantly preached on, but how they produced it was like this weird concept. But yeah, so I was saved in the IFB at the age of 13 to 14 years old. And as I hated church, to be honest, just because of all the things that the church did to me when I was younger. And just everything, it just compiled, so it's all of this hurt. And I know some people might say that I'm bitter, but if you really know me, and I know God knows my heart, and that's really the only thing that matters. But going into it, so the church seemed to be this super controlling environment where you couldn't make any decision on your own, right?
Right, you always had to get pre-approved by the pastor or whatever.
Yeah, so even if you would talk to a girl, they're like, "Oh, you're alone."
Yeah, you talk to a girl and instantly means you're going to try to have sex with her.
Oh, yeah. You're getting married, I guess.
Yeah.
At 13, I guess I'm getting married. No. But anyway, yeah. So, through all, the IFB, it just, it was weird because it was Northern Michigan. I'm originally from Charlevoix, Michigan. I attended Bible Baptist Church, previous church, that I'm no longer a part of because I had to leave because of the KJV only issue. I was planning on leaving earlier. But I never could seem to get out. It was this bondage that was always I always had these chains on my neck. Well, if I moved, then I would be destroyed.
Or you get like the dog with a choke collar. You walk too far, they yank you back.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And through all of those events, it was just it was constant. Well, I would hate to go to church.
Well, and because the line was so inconsistent, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't know what was right, what was wrong half the time because one thing would trigger. One moment they're like, "Oh, we should fellowship and we need to show love and acceptance." Yeah. Next one they're saying, "Don't talk to her; she's a girl."
Yeah.
So there's no consistent way to live out.
That's interesting that you say that because the line kept on always shifting. I remember one time, and I was super heavily against CCM music.
Contemporary Christian music.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows IFB lingo. So
So I was very big into David Cloud's teaching when it came to CCM. I remember when Julius first came to our church, I'm like, bro, you got to get out. You got to get out of this church because it was filled with it had CCM. I remember we sang a song. It's called, I forget what, Soon and Very Soon.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know it.
Soon and very soon. Of course I know it.
My king is coming. Yeah, that song. It's written by Hillsong. And it said it right on the paper. And I'm like, the hypocrisy. I was like, well, these people, like, and, like, our church was super heavy. Like, oh, we seen the old-time religion hymns, you know? Like, we had Ron Hamilton, man. Like, that was the guy that we used. That was the hymn book that we used, you know? And that was the interesting thing about it, was that the hypocrisy, like, it was always so real.
Yeah, one moment, one thing, and the next moment they contradict it, and the next moment something else, and then the contradiction. Yep.
Yeah. So
All too familiar with that.
yeah, and it added a level of destructive to my Christianity where I didn't really know who God was. Because everything that I heard about God was in the IFB. Like, to be honest, I've only been to one other church besides the IFB. And that was just for one day for family. So, like, growing up IFB, going to teen camp, going to youth conferences every single time, IFB preachers, IFB preachers, IFB preachers. Well, they would preach the things that I bought into, because why? I grew up there my whole entire life. Like, it was the only thing I knew besides Christianity. But then, like, for example, I started finding podcasts, Becoming Fundamentalist, The Church Split, Preacher Boys.
Wasn't For Freedom also a big one for you?
For Freedom was really powerful too. Shout out to you guys.
I was gonna say, I saw the For Freedom. You mentioned that you listen. I was like, oh, sweet, that's awesome that you listen For Freedom. So
yeah, so that was one thing that you could see, you know, like, and then the sexual abuse. The sexual abuse that, if you guys don't know, I was sexually abused when I was 13 years old, and instantly, as soon as the sexual abuse happened, it got reported to the church authority. So, like, all three of our pastors that were there, the senior pastor and then the two sons, which kind of made it very different.
Which is funny because that instantly shows a problem when it's just the family running the church, right? Because
yes, exactly.
That's a sketchy place.
Exactly. So the sexual abuse happened, and I was like, okay, like my brain blotted it out. I'm like, not remembering that anymore. And, like, it was never really addressed with me. Like, just got, like, somebody touched my junk, you know, and nobody said anything to me.
Yeah, so like your parents, the pastor, no one even talked to you.
Nobody.
So there you were, you went through some sexual abuse. And
yeah, it's okay, man, I guess.
Yeah, you can, you know, there's things to process, things to think about. And it's not like you don't even talk about it like it was this big traumatic moment for you that it, like, ruined your life. You're just like...
It wasn't, really, to be honest, because my brain forgot about it.
Yeah, you compartmentalize that crap. Yeah. But at the same time, it does, you know, it still does have a psychological effect. You and I have talked about that.
For sure.
And there are things that can trigger, and there's a lot of other issues, and no one's talking to you about it.
Exactly.
So somebody gets caught sexually abusing you in the act.
Yep. Then
it gets non-addressed.
Yep, exactly. And after that occurred, I was like, okay, so I forgot about it. 3 years later, the same person, the same sexual offender, came to the church. Mind you, I never heard a word about it. Never heard a word. And I was like, well, this is awkward. Because, like, what do you do? What do you do in that situation? You don't do anything. You shut down. And that's exactly what happened. So, like, as soon as I saw him, like, all those memories I forgot. Boom, back in my head. And at that point, like, later on in my life, I was suicidal. Just because of all that hurt was in, all the hurt, all the control, all of the manipulation was in me. And there was no community. Like, every single person that was in my life would not talk to me. Like, at all. Like, any of the 40s, like, they would rarely talk to me about anything unless I engaged in conversation with them. And that was the hardest thing for me, is because nothing was ever talked about when it comes to the, like, in the reins of the IFB. Like, no conversation was really, like, if you guys know me at all, I am a very social butterfly.
Yeah, definitely.
And all the men that was in my life were not. So, like, I felt like I had to mold to that image, because, like, all the male figures were all quiet. So I have to be exactly like them.
Right. I have to be stoic. I have to be uncharismatic, non-energetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I had a similar experience as well, where I was the weird, eccentric kid that was very bizarre and had a lot of energy and dorky and awkward, and none of the other guys were that way. So I always felt like I was out of place. So because if I was like, hey, then they'd be like, they give you the look. You're like, never mind, that's apparently not acceptable.
Like, okay.
So no matter what, if I acted out in my normal way, I didn't feel accepted. If I kept it all to myself, wasn't accepted. There's this really weird thing. I don't know, and I'm not sure if that's an IFB issue or if that's just a general social issue. I don't really know. All I know is that it was weird.
Yeah, it was so weird because so I'm like, the personality that God gave me, I felt that I had to be like this. And this leads into individual soul liberty that we talk about a lot. There was a quote that I wrote that got me that the reality is when the IFB forms you into what they want you to be, your personality is vanished and God's intentional design is destroyed.
Very true. That was actually a big thing that bothered me as well. Because, I mean, I was told all the time, Will, you can't do that. Will, that's bad. Will, and it's like, these are just personality things of mine. And I just remember I felt like my identity was, my springs went crazy there. I just felt like my identity was being destroyed. Who I am. And then it was like, okay, did God make a mistake? Am I the sinful? And it just made me question literally everything all the time.
Yeah.
And that was my early teen years. Over time, I became a honey badger and stopped caring.
Yeah, exactly. So as soon as they formed you into the image that they wanted you to be, right, that means that they have all the control, right? So it doesn't matter anything that happens in your life that you're not going to talk about because you don't doubt what the man of God says.
Right.
So at the age of 19 years old, and this is when I was done with the IEP, as soon as I went to talk to my pastor about the sexual abuse that happened to me in my life. And he told me my situation wasn't as bad as other people. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with all this crap because I heard horror stories about sexual abuse. I heard them. I didn't believe them. I had no mind, but it didn't, like I said before, it was always laid down. It didn't matter. So at that point in my life, I was absolutely done with the IEP. And I
just wanted to cut in here for a second. That is such a dumb and terrible approach when somebody's struggling with something. It's like, well, somebody has it worse than you.
Yeah.
Well, no, duh. There's starving kids in Ethiopia. I'm not saying that I got it worse than everybody. I'm saying this is something I'm going through right now, and bear one another's burdens. Help me out here, man.
Yeah.
That's what's being said there. And sometimes I have used worse experiences to get somebody who is really not that big of a deal. Like somebody's like, well, my parents, they make me do chores. And I'm like, okay, so they're asking you to take personal responsibility around the house. Big deal. Or my parents yelled at me. I'm like, okay. Sometimes a perspective check is useful, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we need that. Sometimes maybe I don't have it that bad. But there's also a point of legitimizing someone's position as well, going, okay, this is a struggle for you. And, okay, so the sexual abuse you went through wasn't as horrendous as somebody else. But that doesn't mean that it's somehow less either. So anyway, it's just...
It's funny that you say that because they kind of shifted the narrative and said, oh, I hate everybody that said that about me.
Oh, yeah, that was a recent thing.
Yeah, that was recent. And I'm like, I don't give a rip what they said. I mean, at the time it hurt, but, who gives a... Yeah. So, at that point, it was okay, I knew I was broken. And I knew that the only way that get liberty was the healing of God's grace in Jesus Christ. In his blood that he shed for us on the cross of Calvary. Just making clear for some people. As soon as I realized that, and it was through the Recovering Fundamentalists, the Preacher Boys podcast for exposing sexual abuse, that it gave me a desire to expose them as well. I mean, it's just, I think a lot of times we misunderstand what a lot of people went through. And a lot of the hurt that people went through. And again, we devalue them.
Well, and it goes to this whole thing where it's like when you devalue someone's hurt, or when you just, I mean, think about it. The situation that you and Julius recently went through could have easily sent a lot of people spiraling out of God, out of church, out of all of it.
Yep.
When we delegitimize someone's position or someone's hurt to every little degree, and we just don't legitimize it at all, or at least be willing to have a serious conversation with them, even if they're completely wrong. Like, let's just be real. Some people can be completely wrong in their hurt.
Oh, yeah.
We all know snowflakes. Snowflakes exist.
I'm sometimes really wrong too, guys. I would just be honest.
I'm never wrong. I'm Mr. Always. No, you can't be wrong today. You're Mr. Always right. You got that in front of you. You can't be wrong today. You get to be the narcissist of the show today.
Oh, I get to be the narcissist.
Yeah, because I get accused of being a narcissist sometimes. So.
Oh. Well, I guess I'm a narcissist. Is that okay?
No.
No.
But I'll out narcissist you later and break you.
Okay. We'll see about that.
So the thing is, when you do that, it can push people away.
Yeah, and it did. It did for me. So I mean, I was done with God, because God is I thought God was a jerk because of how he was betrayed.
Right.
And that was the saddest thing for me, is that you wouldn't think your view of God would change, but you wouldn't think that your view of God would be awful, but it was. And that because also sometimes Calvinism philosophy comes into play where it's those situations in your life are predestined.
Right.
And if a God is like that, I mean, I don't even want to be his friend, to be honest. But the true love of God is what constrains us to even have a more desire for him.
Right.
And that was the one thing that clicked in my head. The true gospel of Jesus Christ. When I finally realized that, my life changed completely. And that was about a year or two ago. Well, all the life issues that happened in my life were supposed to, my scars brought me to his scars, so his scars could heal me. The ultimate healer in my life was Jesus Christ.
My scars led me to his scars, which healed me. That needs to be a quote. That might be a t-shirt. Anyway, continue.
Anyway.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be cheesy. I'm legitimately, that's really nice.
Yeah, I think so, because some things that I never understood in the IEP culture.
But you try to go along with it because you're like,
Well, yeah, because conformity is the best in those situations, right? Well,
it's the safest.
It's the safest, yes, and also if you question any aspect of life, then you're a castaway.
Right. I mean, I just remember one time I asked somebody, was it possible to use the Texas Receptus to translate in a modern tongue without the these and thys and the ths and the believeths? And you would think I just, I asked the question, and you would think I just said that Jesus died on a hippopotamus and was just a dude without any divinity. You would think I just committed some strange, crazy heresy.
Yeah, no. I mean, even the New King James uses the Texas Receptus, right? But they don't want to admit that. But the thing is, that we say all these things, the IEP culture was very corrupt in its way. Seeing all the stories of sexual abuse. Right now, I'm reading a book. Talks a lot about sexual abuse, and sometimes it's hard to read it because it's just all the hurt that pastors went, that these people went through. It's how in the world are you not being an advocate for victims?
Right.
And I mean, I only know of one IEP preacher, and there's probably more, that are actually advocates for victims.
Right. And
that's the saddest part. Aren't we supposed to, doesn't the Bible say if you hung a noose around you, it's worse that if you offend one of these little ones, it's worse, you should hung a noose around your neck and drown in the deepest oceans?
Yeah, well, I mean, also it says to stand up for the oppressed, right?
Yeah.
And so it is our duty. It is our moral duty. Yes. And
the thing that, like we said before, community was never there. Church community was never there. It was always the performance based. Well, I did everything at that church. I did everything. I did the sound ministry, and sometimes like I would do video ministry at the same time. And it's just like all the things that I did because I thought that was the only way to gain acceptance from God. And the acceptance from God wasn't those things, it was himself, right?
And it's amazing when you fully understand what God's done for you, then you go, yeah, I want to serve you.
Yep.
I love you because you first loved me. When that first kind of clicks,
Yep.
it's a really powerful moment.
Yeah.
So
And that's an interesting thing that you said that, because since I grew up in the church my whole entire life, I didn't really know the power of sin until I had a grip on me. And that was the thing that, like, I really saw sin for what it was. Because in the IFB, like you're so sheltered, where a lot of times it feels like you're not even doing anything wrong. You don't see sin.
when you talk about sin, like Harry Potter movie,
Yeah.
like it's the worst thing ever, but like there's so many darker sins.
Yeah.
And when you finally experience that, like when we had Julius on
Yeah.
in our last episode, some of the things that he saw at a young age, right? Some things I saw at a young age.
Yeah.
Like, when you actually understand what sin really is, not just some dorky fictional movie with some people in silly costumes, right?
Yeah.
So,
And that's the thing. When you actually experience sin, you experience the brokenness of it, right? And like I said before, like that's what brings healing. And like a lot of times, like in the IFB, that I noticed this is that the prosperity, they always hardcore preaching against Joel Osteen and the prosperity gospel. But there's one thing that I noticed is that they're preaching a prosperity gospel themselves. When it comes to eternity, like, oh, if you do all these things, you can get a crown of righteousness. I'm like, I understand that's a biblical thing, but like all like the performance, that's what ran the IFB, was like, oh, you can have this crown and you can have this crown and you can have this crown. Not because you love God, but just because you want a stinking crown. Like you're doing it for the wrong motives.
yeah, it's always about like you're getting your bank account saved up in heaven, so you go spend it crazy up in your mansion.
Yeah. It's like the joke, you know, like a guy brought gold into heaven, and then Jesus is like, "Why do you got gravel in your pockets, man?" It's like, oh man.
So, you know, you went through it. So you're raised in it,
Yep.
right? And we've talked about some stuff here. You know, the sexual abuse cover-ups, and I think I don't know why that's so rampant in the IFB. I have my own theories as to why sexual
I
sin
have lots of theories.
explodes in the IFB behind closed doors. That's an episode that I plan to do for another time, where I actually think I've got it pretty well figured out.
Yeah.
But so you went through that. People don't take you seriously. And here's the thing. What's funny is when you talk about your experience with that, you never once go, you know what, I hate that guy. He sucks. I want him in prison for the rest of his life, and he needs to be lined up against the wall and shot. You never talk like that. You're just going, why wasn't it at all even addressed?
Yeah.
Like, that was your thing. Because clearly, somebody does that to you, that means that they're messed up too.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, shouldn't something have been messed up? It's gone. Is it something should have happened? At least something. The fact that nothing happens is telling.
Yeah.
And
for
then
sure.
and then the suffocation, right?
Yep.
The fact that you can't enjoy. If you enjoy something, it's almost always considered something of the flesh, right?
Yep.
Like everything. And one of my favorite things is, it's no secret that the church split. We'll have beers on here. And of course, the number one thing is I get is, why would you do that if there's no benefit for you? I'm like, well, why do you watch the football game, man? But what's funny is, like, for example, sports in the IFB, completely okay, almost considered masculine.
Yes.
But then, or even,
But they drink beer themselves. Like that's the main advertising. Like,
but Budweiser and Bud Light love the NFL.
yeah. Like, I mean, that's what they.
But
I
what's
don't know.
funny about that is like that's okay.
And they go to football games. They will go to all of that stuff. They will go to baseball games. They will go to all those games. But there's one reality is that, like, those people are your idols. You know?
Well, also it's this whole idea of like, well, you enjoyed that, and that's. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
What is a sport? Usually chasing a rubber ball around for a couple hours, and who gets the highest score?
Yeah.
As a waste, it would be considered a waste of time in many ways. But at the same time, it's something fun, and it's something of fellowship, and it's something exciting, and it's something that we can engage in. But meanwhile, they'd say the same thing about video games.
Yep.
Right? Oh, video games are worldly and they're a waste of time. And I'm like,
Yep.
so is chasing a football. But we all do it for fellowship and enjoyment and whatever. So the suffocation.
Yeah, that's one thing we relate to a lot. I was an avid gamer. I love gaming, man. But I always heard it preached against, and I never understood why. I'm like, okay. I mean, like, I don't care what you say. I have to have, like, that was my community, to be honest.
The gamer community.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a gamer too, so keep going. You're fine.
Yeah, but that was my community. When the church should have been. The place that God ordained, the place that God inspired, the place that God gave his life for.
Yeah. Well, that's where it should be. And that's what it was funny because when you came over this weekend, you moved in, and it was really funny because Brian and Andrew and all of them showed up, and you're like, oh, that's cool. And then that Sunday afternoon, Paul and Mel from church show up with everyone else. And you're like, I've never seen this much community in my life.
Nope.
And I'm like, this is just what we do on the weekends. We all get together and hang out. We play games. We hang out, have a barbecue, and just fellowship with God's good people.
Yeah.
And you'll notice half the time we talk about the Lord. Me and Paul, we went from talking about the Lord, talking about men's ministry, to talk about D&D, to back to men's ministry. It was just, and you can do that. The church should not just be a place you go to, and I can't stand this mentality. It's not a place you go just to hear a message. It's not a place you just go to hear some songs. It's a place you go for fellowship. When you read the book of Acts, it is the very beginning. Just notice how much they broke bread with each other, fellowshiped with each other. It was the community being the body of Christ.
Well, the last thing that he orchestrated, is the Last Supper, a place of fellowship to bring unity into the body of Christ.
Yeah, the Last Supper, which was taking place during Passover, right? Like it was in Passover. All the Jewish feasts were highly community based. So it's sad, but but people like in the gaming community, most of them are just a bunch of nerds who like to talk about the things they enjoy, and they're usually pretty good people. I've actually been able to witness through that. To this day, I forget his name. I just know his gamer tag was Rice Ball. We were in the same clan.
Oh yeah.
And me and Rice Ball, we tore it up. But we talked about God. Like he found out I was a minister, and then he was like 17, I think, at the time, and it started just kind of opening up on what he thinks, and I just was able to kind of disciple him via Xbox. I was like, with the 21st century, man, here I am, like shooting aliens and giving the gospel and discipleship.
Man, Jesus loves you. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is like gaming was always preached against, like every single day.
Well, it kind of goes back into the old time religion thing.
Yeah.
If it doesn't line up with 1940s or 1950s culture, it must be bad. All new is bad.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter.
Well, that's same with like newer preachers, newer music, like all of it is wicked. And if you avoid it, and like the thing that gets like I heard this verse quoted so many times: do everything decently in order. I'm like, do everything decently in order? Like, have you studied the context of that verse? Have you studied it?
Well, the IFB, we know this. They're known, and that's another thing. One of the big issues I had in IFB, I'm sure you too, was I call it bumper sticker theology. Yeah. It's when you take a verse that could fit on a bumper sticker, and you wrap an entire theology around that one singular statement, and, the context be damned. Like, we're not going to talk about the context to it. It's just, we're going to take half a verse from the book of Psalms. We're going to preach about that phrase, and I'm going to twist it in any way I can to make it work.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it grinds my gears sometimes, because like being taken out of the bonds of legalism and having conversations with people, it's like, do you hear what you're saying?
Well, a lot of this kind of goes into it, because you and I have talked about this. Yeah, the IFB is very culty.
Yes, very.
For example, y'all leave. You have Julius post why he leaves. I think you've been kind of kept your mouth shut more because that's just your nature.
Well, I was saving it for this, to drop some mic drops.
Okay. You're saving it to be like, I'm saying it on my own terms. But it's very culty behavior. For example, you say why you left, and now your guys' phones haven't stopped.
No.
Since you left. It's just been people harassing, angry. Yep. Everyone wants to get the last word in, and they all want to tell you what's what and why you're wrong and why you're evil and you're going, whatever, and you're heretical.
going away from the wrong path and I'm smarter than everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've never claimed that in my life.
Well, yeah, well, that's what you get accused of when you're like, well, no, this is not true. Like, oh, yeah, you just think you're smarter than us. I'm like, no, but I do have more information than you. But the reason why, what you're saying, when the people don't want to listen.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to you because, and we're like, do you even hear yourself? And it's because, honest to goodness, that's why I usually feel bad for some of these people. So I felt bad for even your friend that was talking to me earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And and I was like, I don't really know how to talk to you without being I'm either going to be super belligerent, and that's not going to help either one of us. But the situation is like, the reason why is because when you've been brainwashed and you've been told all these things are bad, you make logical fallacies the entire time. You make category errors. And most of these people, I've said this 100 times, we need to bring back philosophy classes and just to teach the basic laws of logic would do people huge benefits.
Well, that's funny because, like, one thing that, like, I always been KJV preferred. That was always my opinion. That was always my mindset when it came to the KJV argument. The thing that sold me on being KJV preferred is that there was a Sunday for a Sunday school class that a video was shown by BBC talking about the King James Bible. I think it was like the 400-year anniversary of it, and they were talking about how it was created. And as soon as they talked about, like, Protestants being involved and Catholics being involved, I'm like, I ain't reading no book from a Catholic. As soon as I thought that, and I'm like,
oh, little did you know that the Erasmus, the guy who put together the Textus Receptus, was literally Catholic.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, this is a bunch of crap.
Yeah. Erasmus even defended transubstantiation.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's one of those, like, things that the IFB talks about as being super heretical. And I'm like, dude, the guy who made your Textus Receptus that King James came from believed that.
Yeah, and like
find the writings.
And I came up with, like, this argument, and my pastor didn't like it when we had our meeting, because I basically said, like, well, Catholics help translate the King James Bible, right? Yeah. So I'm like, well, how can God use somebody that is, I believe God's all powerful, but when it comes to a spiritual matter and having to know God and having to have a relationship with God, I believe to translate scriptures. Like, how can you say that they translated it 100% without God's power? Because they didn't have the Spirit living inside them. Doesn't the Bible say that the spiritual understand the spiritual and the carnal can't understand the spiritual? Doesn't the Bible say that? And I heard that, and that always popped in my mind. And I'm like, you can't say that when that is your foundation. Your foundation is based on a man's work. Well, oh man, how do I say this? I'm trying to think.
You can't say that it's that it's of God, that although the works
it's the only one.
It's the only one when it's literally still based on the handiwork of men.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about the moving of the Holy Spirit, right? We're not talking about like a prophet who was given prophetic visions like Isaiah and being all doom and gloom. We're talking about literally people who got together and was like, we need to give this out of Latin and into the common tongue. And a group of people got together and said, well, let's try it. And then they were like, this work is far from over. It is not a perfect work.
Exactly.
So, I mean, they admitted it for themselves. You can read it as a free document. It's just called, like, To the Readers.
They say that the meanest, referring to the worst, translation of God's word is the word of God. And that just as soon as I read that quote, I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, that was like, so
the very fact that they're saying, even if it's a very, very, very poorly done.
If it's the awful translation, which we know there's some awful translations.
Oh, yeah, some bad ones. Looking at you, Message Bible. It's so bad. So like when I first read Genesis 1:1 in the message, little side note here, it was like, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was an ooey gooey darkness. And I was like, wait, it was Play-Doh? Like, I don't ooey gooey. Like, that's like, is it under?
Man,
I didn't know
funny.
the earth was something that was like stuck to the bottom of my shoe. Like,
That was one thing I always did. I'm like, I gotta make sure this is a King James Bible. So I would go to Genesis 1:1, and I'm like, oh, the Bible says, and God created the heaven and the other Bible say heavens. So you avoid those.
which is so silly. Like, oh yeah, the plural. It's like, no, it's not talking about. It's the heavens as in the sky, like not heaven the place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Woo.
It's this whole, so yeah, you went through a lot there, and it's funny because you actually kind of approached each one systematically and pretty effectively. You even I thought your idea of the prosperity gospel was great, but it said it was like the heavenly prosperity gospel. It says, oh, you do this because you're gonna get more awards. Oh, you do this because you're gonna get more awards. You're gonna get more awards if you do this. And I said this recently too, because Nathan Rager recently made the comment of I'd rather see a baby aborted than to burn in hell.
Yeah, I saw that.
And when you say it kind of like that, it's like they both had the same terrible theology of like, okay, the best thing I can do is get treasures in heaven, or the best thing I can do is save someone from hell. No, the best thing, what did he say were the top commandments? To love God and love one another.
Yep.
Now, if you properly love God and you properly love one another, you will receive a crown of righteousness, and people will get saved from hell.
And you keep his commandments. You can be.
But what's the motivation here? And and people go, well, no, we do say is the love of God, but your words and actions say otherwise.
Yeah.
When you're emphasizing so much one over the other continually, it's hard for me to take you seriously when you say that.
Yeah, it's like isn't life supposed to be like God has clearly taught in His Word that your life is supposed to be a balance,
Right.
right? And like a lot of times when you're so involved in ministry, where you're cracking your back, you're breaking your back, just to be in ministry, like that's not a balanced life.
Right.
Like you.
It's not life abundant.
It's not life abundant, exactly.
Right. It's funny because as a pastor, when I took over the Baptist church as a lead pastor, the church was split somewhere between crazy legalists and normal people. And one of the things I got told all the time, because they were like, well, we need you to preach and teach all these different things. We also need you to mow the lawn. We also need you to keep up the flower garden. Also, pastor, could you also do all these other things for the secretary? Also, would you be able to help clean the church? And we're installing this whole new water system. Can you also help us install it? I'm like, with what time to expect it? And I started realizing, like, and I finally put it, like, I started saying no. And then I started getting accused of being a lazy pastor. And I'm like, well, no, I shouldn't have to constantly try to work and serve and bust my back to just make you guys accept me.
Yeah.
My goal, that's not my job here.
My job is to teach.
Yeah. Or, to teach the gospel, counsel.
Yep.
And for you, it's like, as someone in the church who is gifted in technology, and let's be real, like that's something you've studied, that's something you're passionate about, something you know well. But you shouldn't do that for acceptance.
Well,
you should do it because you desire to help.
Agreed. And that's what it was. It was like I had to do these things. And if I wasn't in my spot, I would get ridiculed from the pulpit.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, you're not, like, he forgot to be in the sound system. I'm like, dude, like, it always
Grind your gears?
grinds my gears. Yeah, because, like, it's performance when it's supposed to be the relationship aspect with God.
And then through your relationship, the performance will follow.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's this weird backwards thing. Like, because I remember when people got saved, if someone got saved in the IFB, instantly they start expecting like suits, neckties, proper dress. They suddenly, if they're
I guess
dudes,
we're gonna get into that.
yeah, I mean, right? Like,
Yeah.
once you're saved, you better start performing exactly the way an IFB man would. And instead of understanding that the relationship flows forth works, they instantly go to the works in the appearance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I wore a suit and tie every single Sunday because I thought I had to. But then as soon as I started working and we had church on Thursday, I'm like, I ain't wearing no suit. I remember I've gotten into some crazy conversations like with our fellow from the previous interview that you guys had with Julius. I mean, we've had debates about this stuff, and like that was when we were hardcore in the IFB. But like God just snapped his fingers, and like I had never thought in my life that I would be in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
It's a pretty great place. We have good burgers.
Yeah, they actually do, man.
We have really good burgers.
Oh man, I was loving it, man, like McDonald's. Anyway,
What?
but so with all the, I thought that, man, God's will for me was to go to Tennessee. That was my set idea. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna go to Tennessee to get out of a bunch of all of this crap and go to a church that actually is okay, actually supports victims. Because that was one of my biggest things, is like, I want to go to a church that is an advocate for the oppressed.
Right.
An advocate for the people, the hearted, the advocate for the people in prison, for everybody. Because that's what the church is supposed to be, a place of growth, right? Mm-hmm. Where we grow not by what we heal, but we grow with our relationship in Christ. And that was the thing that I had to realize, is that I had to grow my relationship with Christ before I could get anywhere in my life. Like I said, it was all performance. I never took the time to grow my relationship with Christ. It was just like, oh, do this.
And that's exactly what ends up hurting you.
Yeah.
It is that. It's the constant perform.
Yeah.
You don't have time to work on your relationship with Christ. Your relationship with Christ is how you perform.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes you just not. I told you my testimony last night when we were just hanging out late at night, and
pretty late.
Yeah, 1 o'clock or so.
It was a little bit later than that, but
yeah.
Okay.
And we were talking, and and that was why I told you. Like, finally, I read through the book of John for the first time without this idea of perform.
Yeah.
And appearance, because I heard appearance all the time.
Yeah.
Appearance of evil, appearance. How's that going to appear? You need to work on your appearance. And reading that for the first time was awakening, because I realized, no, God loves me.
Yeah.
And he desires a relationship with me. The creator of the universe wants to know will.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not just like this, just knowing. Like Jesus Christ's language in the symbolic power that we are the bride of Christ. It's not just like he just wants to know us, but he wants us to know us intimately.
Yes, intimately, as passionately, as powerfully.
Exactly. And that was the thing where I was like, well, God wants me because of me, not because of what other people want me to be and conform me to what they want me, but he constrains me through his love,
Exactly. And, one of the things that stuck out, and I was reading this today because I'm also, I have a lot of interviews coming up because a lot of things have happened in the personal life recently.
Oh, yeah.
So, my sister came up, so I did that episode with her. And then this whole situation with you guys happened.
Yeah.
So we did all these episodes. So this isn't normally my normal flow. I'm working on a music episode, but I was also working on a Modesty episode.
Oh, fun.
Yes. And today it kind of stuck out again. I just wanted to read this here because remember we were talking about the suits and the girls have to wear the dresses and the idea of the Sunday best.
Yeah.
And remember, we were told if you're coming to the house of God, you need to look your best. Don't you want to look your best for the Lord? And then I was reading these modesty passages, and he literally says, 1 Timothy 2:9, likewise also the women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls and costly attire, but with what is proper for women who profess godliness with good works. Let a woman learn quietly with all submissiveness. I do not permit women to teach or exercise authority over a man, rather that she should remain quiet, for the Adam was first and all that. So we get into some complementarianism and some things to explain context. But one of the things that sticks out to me is and if you read this and couple it with what 1 Peter says, he's literally saying that because what was braided hair? It was a symbol of status.
Yeah.
What was gold and pearls? Status. Looking nice.
Money.
Yeah, showing look how good I look.
Yeah.
And it's literally was the concept of wearing the Sunday best.
Exactly.
So it's if that's literally if you're here, you need to look nice. You need to look nice. You need to look nice. That is exactly against what Paul was saying, because the idea isn't to look as best as you are, best as you can. The best is to just come. The point is to go worship.
Yeah. And that's an interesting that you brought that up, because best is always a perspective.
Oh, for sure.
And to me, this is my best, man. I got a church split T-shirt on, man. That's the best that you can get, right? But also,
of course, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm not biased at all.
Yeah, but also also another perspective could be that the Yeezys, or whatnot, and also it's a cultural thing too, right? So like that was always my thing, is that like best is a perspective.
Yeah, it's very subjective, person to person,
Yeah.
right?
But also on top of that, like, doesn't the Bible say to come as you are?
Well, I mean, the Bible doesn't say that specifically, but yes,
Yeah.
the concept is there.
Yeah, the concept is there. Exactly. But what happens is we come as ourselves to the house of God. But what happens when we leave?
Right. Yeah, and that's the idea. It's like, if I come as I am, I should leave as I never was before.
Yeah, but that's a practice every Sunday when we think about it. And that, for me, is like one thing I had to focus on, is that how am I going to be able to change my life every single Sunday with my Lord?
Well, you know, Pastor John at Frontline,
Yeah.
where we attend.
Yep.
And Pastor John, he put it perfectly. What is the point of preaching? Because as him and I we collaborate when we do messages together. And when he first asked me that, I just kind of raised an eyebrow. I'm like, I don't know, there's a lot of course, I'm too detail brained. So I'm like, well, there's a lot of reasons for preaching. And he goes, change lives. Two words, change lives.
Yep.
That's why we preach, to change lives.
Every day.
Yep. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a great point. So the whole point is, as soon as they walk in from those double doors, when they leave, they should be changing.
Yeah.
And, that's a challenge. So then it makes you start dissecting a little bit of what fat to remove from your message, because you go, I'm trying to change, we're here to change lives. That's the point.
Yeah.
So I think that's powerful. Yeah. So, then so here's the thing. Now, naturally, because you talked about this and all this stuff, and what people don't realize is that you and Julius are really good friends, but also you guys couldn't be personality difference at all. Like, it's so obvious. Like, I mean, Julius was on here just kind of like, I don't give a crap what they say about me, whatever. And you're over here like, you're a lot more empathetic, and I think people can tell your heart here. And with Julius, he's over there like, I'm just going to drop bars and walk away and not care. And neither one of them's wrong. It's just the fact that they both are just different personality differences. But one of the things you are going to get accused of, one of the things you have been accused of, is being angry and bitter.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is I'll be honest, the entire time you've been at my house, same with Julius, I'll speak for him as well.
Okay.
But, I've not seen an angry, bitter person. I see somebody who's passionate about the love of God and passionate about the Word of God, passionate about truth. And I definitely say there's some hurt, I think, in processing. Like, especially when you've been betrayed. Some people have, some people have said some nasty things.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes, that's tough, because you have to.
But that's just hurt, right? That's not bitterness.
Right. It's bitter. Yeah. And also, again, I say this all the time, there's a difference between being righteously angry, though.
Yeah.
Because when somebody accuses you of something that you're not, you can be rightfully angry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was called a heretic today, and I was also told to, and this is because I'm associated with you. Like, I've never spoken to this individual in my life, and it was just cracking me up. I was literally at the table laughing, because I was like, this is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Told me, that I'm a heretic, and I need to pull my hair out of my butt and stop and start acting like a man. I'm like, just because I want to have a conversation with somebody who just clearly wants to, has an axe to grind, and and I refuse to grind your axe.
Yeah. I don't want to sharpen your axe.
Yeah. And here's the thing: is and you know this. Anyone here, if you watch the church split, you know.
Oh yeah.
I love to debate. Like, I love debating. I love to discuss logical fallacies. I love proper thinking. And even if you disagree with me, but if your position is locked tight logically, I respect you, because even though we disagree, yours is consistent logically, without fallacies, without false equivalencies, and is consistent all the way through.
Yeah.
And then there's but if you're constantly filled with fallacies everywhere,
Ad hominem attacks.
those are ad hominems are my favorite.
Dude, they're so fun.
Yeah, they're, because it's like, oh, so you really don't have an argument. You just
it just shows the ignorance of who your character is as well, right?
Yeah. Because you have no argument, I'm going to say inflammatory language to try to get under that person's skin, and it doesn't work on me. I'm just kind of like, you just started the discussion, you lost.
Like, whew.
But you're getting attacked a lot. So I'm going to I didn't ask you guys to do this for Julius, and it's not because I don't love Julius.
No, he just loves me more.
Oh, no. Well, I feel like the dad. No, I don't have favorites. I love you both equally.
Just differently.
Well, I'm just going to ask, for those of you who listen, to pray, not just for Micah and Julius, but pray for people in your situation, that they don't fall away from the faith.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. It is difficult when everything's chaotic. It's hard to find a decent foundation.
It is, because, like, everything that you were told in fact, it seems like it's all like a lie. Like, is God even real? Like, I mean, growing up in a Christian home your whole entire life, like, you know very well as much as I do, doubt in salvation every single step of the way.
I mean, yeah, how many, and people who say that they don't doubt their salvation, okay, how many times have you said your sinner's prayer?
A lot. I'll be honest. A
Yeah.
lot.
Hoping just to God that maybe this time it sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas really, and that's because and again, because why? What are they preaching?
Yep.
Avoiding from hell.
Yep.
Avoid hell. Avoid hell.
That at all costs. That is the one thing that you have to do is avoid from hell. But so they don't teach about what really Jesus Christ's blood saves you from. Mm-hmm. And what is that?
Your sin.
Exactly.
It saves you from your sin.
The most powerful thing, like, I mean, sin in the blood, like, how much power the blood has over the sin, where the Bible says, go and sin no more, when he was talking to the woman at the well, that was caught in, the woman at the well.
Right.
That had multiple affairs. Man, dude, it gets me heated. I'm like, so Jesus is talking to this adulterous woman, right? And people would say, that is a presence, avoid the presence of evil. And I'm like, bro, we gotta witness to people and show God's amazing power.
Yeah, Jesus literally says, distinctly says he hung out with the tax collectors and prostitutes.
Yeah.
Like, trying to give them.
But that's avoiding the presence of evil. And that's the thing, is that in my opinion, the IFB, Jesus Christ doesn't seem like he's really the Messiah.
Right.
In a lot of realms, because, and I'm not trying to broad brush it off, I'm not, but, I mean,
We're speaking generally here. We can't caveat everything.
Yeah, but it seems like they would disagree with Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm like, how can you disagree with Jesus?
Well, and that's what makes it funny. That was another thing that stuck out to me. Like, well, avoid the appearance of evil, because if you're talking to a girl alone, what are people going to think? And then I'm like, didn't Jesus talk alone to a girl at the well?
That was an adulterous woman, in fact.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I wonder what that looked like, because she literally went there to a different time of day to avoid the scorn from other women.
Yeah.
And it's like Jesus sits down and has a conversation. I'm sure that looks shady, but again, we're not here to please men. And the appearance of evil is referring to when evil appears. It's not referring to like subjective perspectives of men.
Exactly.
So anyway, Micah, real quick, before we wrap up, is there anything you really quickly you wanted to add, or do you think you got most of it off your chest?
I think I got almost everything off.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me?
I don't have any other questions for you.
Okay.
Just the fact that you said it yourself, your life was boring. You were raised at IFB, everything was wrong, and now you're realizing not everything was wrong, and you're out of the IFB. I just want a nice, strong Braveheart freedom.
Yeah, man, freedom for freedom.
Wait. Okay. So wait, have you ever seen Braveheart?
No.
Oh my word.
What's Braveheart?
You're going to find out. So
Tonight?
Maybe not tonight. That's a long movie, but it's great.
Well, I went through all the Hobbit movies in a day, so
yeah,
I think I got it.
That was kind of impressive. So what happens when you're unemployed? You're starting Monday, though.
Yeah. What, man? Like, got a job instantly, man. Like, God's will is.
Yeah. Well, God worked the whole thing out. So it was clearly the Lord's will.
Yeah.
I am thankful that God brought you here. I am thankful to have my newfound friends and / roomies.
It's crazy. We're too much alike. I'm just saying, it is creepy.
There's a lot of weird similarities between you, me, and Julius.
Oh yeah, Julius, get in here. Right here, get in here. Bro, we gotta have a what's it called?
A group picture, a group hug.
No.
Okay, we're
For
just
you
gonna
two, man.
We're gonna wrap this up, and Julius is gonna say firmly seated right there. He's very comfy. He was just like, "Nah, fam, I'm good.
Well,
I'm
he doesn't want.
happy
He
right
doesn't
here."
want to be seen, man.
He was
That's
just
okay.
on. He doesn't mind being seen. Anyway, okay, guys. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the church. But guys, be a prayer for people like Micah and Julius. And be willing to be the church a little bit. Be willing to put yourself out there a little bit and put yourself out on a limb. What's the worst thing that can happen? You know, that's the best case scenario, though, is you could help somebody in need and also create new friends. Wow. That's a Marvel idea. So, all right, guys. Talk to you soon, and I'll see you next time on the next episode of The Church Split.